Beautiful ones, welcome to Candace Recommends with myself, Candace Mama. I'm so excited for today's episode. It is with my good friend Emmanuel Castis, and I mean, he is a musician, an actor we've seen on our screens for the past 21 years, if you can believe it. And I want to see if I can get him to confess when his next album is coming out. I think we all need it. No, I think we all deserve it. So without further ado, yes, we together, we together. Okay. Are you good? Are we good?
Yeah, and we
Um,
can't blame America for being awake now for the fiber being slow. So,
uh, but anyway, so I was saying, do you realize that it's been what? It came out in 2008, say.
yeah,
Yeah, in 2020. Does it feel like that long ago for you?
it doesn't because it was such a sort of event in my life, like my first album, my only album that I recorded. So it was quite a huge thing. So it doesn't feel that long ago at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, funnily enough, I was about to go back into studio before lockdown with Neil Solomon, the producer of the album, and redo some of the songs and then record some new stuff as well.
Oh my God.
So, and that obviously didn't happen. So, yeah.
Well, we're excited for a new album because that was going to be one of the questions, of course. Like, when is new music coming out? It's been 12 years. Like, it's time.
I know. I had a couple of tracks that did come out in the meantime, but didn't really gain much traction. I didn't really push them a lot because I got really busy in the acting world, and then I moved to LA for a while, so it took a bit of a back seat. And so yeah, sort of the end of last year, beginning of this year, I thought actually I need to sort of do something new. So I guess we've got to wait till I can get back into studio with Neil and do something with him because we've got some exciting ideas. And I wrote a song with Cindy Alter, which is on the album,
Nice.
and I'm going to turn that into a duet and spice it up a little. So we'll see. We'll see. It's all a question of time, really. It's just we're in such a sort of surreal and uncertain time at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I'm looking forward to it. I can tell you that now. But I jump straight into it. But I first want to do some rapid fire questions with you. And
Go for it.
just anything off your head, okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
Good. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Kind, passionate, and maybe a little temperamental sometimes.
Also very honest. I'll add that. And what's your favorite song of the moment?
My favorite song of the moment. Oh wow, there's so many, but Circles is like I really am loving that track.
Yeah, Post
I
Malone,
don't know
right?
why. Say again. Post Malone, yes,
Is it
Post
Post?
Malone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My girlfriend Arlene doesn't like it, but I don't know why I'm loving it. Yeah.
Okay, best movie of all time.
The Usual Suspects.
I mean, you posted it once, and I said to you, I was like, finally, someone with sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's a toss up between that and Goodfellas, but I would say The Usual Suspects. It just
usual
blew me
suspect
away. Yeah.
every time, every time. Okay, happiest thing in your life right now.
My girlfriend.
Aww. I love how you did the sign. What does the world need more of at the moment?
Kindness.
Always. The world always
Yeah.
needs more.
Yeah.
Always.
Mm.
Okay, and the final one. If you could only act or sing for the rest of your life, which one would you choose?
I'd be in a musical. I could do both.
You got me on that one. I was never ready. I was never ready. But musicals are great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of
Well,
which, would you ever be in a musical?
would I ever? I have, yeah. So I toured with Jersey Boys for a while, for a couple of years. And also, what lockdown sort of shut down was I've been part of the developmental cast for the Broadway version. Well, not the Broadway version. It's been written by two South Africans, but they live in New York, and they're developing Mandela, the musical. So I've been a part of that developmental cast, and wow, it was amazing. So it's, we go into a process where we sort of rehearse the show out off book, and we
Yeah.
do the show off book to an audience to gain investors and that kind of thing. So it's been quite an amazing process to literally be working on Broadway and developing a show that is so close to my heart and to obviously South Africans' hearts. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds incredible. And like, just to take a little, where did this all begin for you? Like, would you always know from a young age that entertainment was your thing, or did it come at a later stage?
So that's an interesting question, because a lot of people are like, hi everybody, I see there's hellos there. Let me just say hello
Yeah.
to everybody. I don't know what the etiquette is. I'm not used to this.
Everyone.
I'm a bit of a tech fool. Yeah, anyway. So a lot of people will tell you, oh yes, it started when I was a little kid, and it did. It started when I was 6 years old. I was in my first play when I was 6 years old as a shepherd in the Greek nativity play. So it was all in Greek. But I was essentially a conservationist and a kid who wanted to be a vet or a doctor. And somehow it just happened. I didn't act for a while. And then when I was in primary school, like sort of my last year of primary school, I got involved again. And then in high school, I got involved again. I wasn't much of an academic. So I sort of slowly realized, oi, I don't know how I'm going to become a doctor with these grades. And then a teacher of mine said, you need to go to drama school. So it wasn't like first and foremost in my head as such, but it was always there. My mother has a picture of me with a play guitar with my Bee Gees hairstyle, and I used to apparently sing Michael Row the Boat Ashore with that, So it's always been there. But essentially, I was either going to become a marine biologist, a vet, or a doctor.
Wow. Okay. Or an actor. Or singer.
Or an actor, yeah. Now I can be all three if I want to, really.
Exactly. Now you've got the opportunity to play any role you want. Speaking of,
Yes.
I mean, you've been acting for how long now? Between theatre and screen?
It's a good 21 years now, professionally.
What? I mean, that's
See, I don't look a day over 21.
I mean, I was like, did you start acting in the womb? Like, how did this happen? Wow, that's incredible. And when you look over your career, are there any moments where you thought to yourself, either with an acting role or something, and you just thought, I wish I didn't do that? Are there any roles that you just regret doing? Or you don't have to name the role. You don't.
I don't know. I don't actually think so. And, like when you're starting off, you can't really choose the roles you play, But like it's always turned out pretty awesome for me. Like, especially like the biggest role that put me on the map was playing Steve Stithakis on Isidingo, which was the first gay role on South African TV. And, we made a choice how to play that character so well that it was amazing. And I mean, a lot of people would come to me and go, what's it like playing a gay man? And I'm like, have you ever asked what it's like playing a murderer? That's probably getting into that kind of psyche. So I've always played roles that I've always enjoyed and have always grown me as an actor and a performer. Never mind, and my dream has always been to play like a wise guy or something in a Martin Scorsese film.
Ah,
And I kind of got to do that in Jersey Boys because that's where these guys came from. The Four Seasons came from New Jersey and they grew up amongst the mob. And so, yeah, I think I've never regretted anything. No.
oh, good. And so, when it comes to choosing a role, because now you are in a position where you can choose what you want to and don't want to do, what's the thinking process behind that? Is it like, okay, you read the script and you're like, this is definitely me, this is going to challenge me? Or is it like, is there other thinking that goes behind, choosing a role?
Well, I mean, if we look at the times now,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't be choosy, but
Because,
you know, now you take what you can get. Um, um, no, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what you're saying. It's like I kind of look at the role and see if it challenges me as an actor and if it's going to challenge me and take me to another level. Um, a lot of actors will tell you I got a page to the end and see if the character's in the last scene. um, and if it is, then I'm in. But those are Hollywood people who are sitting up there in the ivory tower. So yeah, it's generally just something that'll challenge me as an actor and grow me as an actor because no matter how long you've been in the industry, I don't think you can ever stop growing and ever stop learning.
oh, that's incredible. And tell me, we spoke a little bit about Corona and this time. I mean, it's an incredibly tough time for anyone.
Mm.
But how has it impacted you as an actor, you as a creative, or people in the industry that you know?
Well, geez, I'm blessed that I have the situation that I have, the family that I have, the partner, girlfriend that I have, who've been like, very supportive because the work stopped. It's literally
Yeah.
like ground to a halt. All my live music gigs gone,
Yeah.
television gone, and I was set ready to start a role. And thankfully, production has gone back, so I still got the role, and I've started filming on it. I can't mention yet what it is because I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
Um, um, but yeah, it literally just halted everything, and it was crazy. I'm going to be honest. A lot of people out there found the time to be more creative and whatever. And I have a production company with a partner, and we've been working on stuff. But I got a little bit sidetracked and lost, so to speak, because I really just went out there to try and get an income, start earning some money. So I got involved in the game of PPE,
Oh, the masks. Yeah.
which is such a mugs game, and I started realizing that wow, it's actually just a waste of time. Um, so I've kind of I'm sort of landing my feet back on the ground again. But that's basically what it became. It became a bit of a scramble just to kind of keep head above water. But it's fine. Everything's good. And it made me realize the important things in life and the important people in life, which is really, and when you've got good people and supportive people in your life, what more do you
Yeah. Oops.
need? Just as an artist, it can only help you grow and inspire
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for your honesty because I think it is one of those moments where I always say to people, I think in the beginning when we went into shutdown or lockdown, at least for me, I was like, oh, this is great. I will bake raisin bread, you know. I'll
Write another book.
no, that was not on the agenda. Not
I
at all.
have to tell you this. I have to tell you this and tell everybody out there. When I read your book, it was in a very difficult time of my life, which was like sort of December, January. Thank God that's better now. um, um, and it was just so amazingly inspiring. And thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank
Everybody's got to read that book.
Oh, you're so
Yeah.
sweet. Thank you so much. And thank you for also promoting it. Like you put it on your social. Thank
No,
you.
I mean, No, it just makes you realize again, like going back to what I just said now, how you realize what's important in your life and everything, and how you realize that sometimes your struggle isn't as hard as somebody else's struggle,
Yeah.
and that you have to just put things in perspective sometimes and go, whoa. And like your story, it's incredible. Like, you know, I could never imagine what you've been through. So for me, it was like, okay, cool, dude, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move on,
Oh, thank
move
you. Thank
forward.
you. And I'm glad it helped inspire you, and it helped you through a difficult time. I mean, it's such an honor. Now I feel like I have to go write another book.
Yes, and you still have to sign my book.
I thought, well, after Corona, we're doing it. But
Perfect.
so I think what has happened is just coming back to what you were saying about, all of us kind of trying to find our footing again. I think every single person I've spoken to has really had to adjust to this new reality we're living in. Because I think in the beginning, all of us kind of thought this is a phase and it's going to pass, right?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, no, don't worry, I'm gonna bake bread, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then we realize, oh, we're 2 months into this. So what am I gonna do? And so that's why I'm just so inspired that you shared your truth. And you said, I was lost. Because I think sometimes when people look at you and the platform you have, and you've been on our screens, on our radios for the past 21 years, and they think he's okay. Like he'll never, understand this. He'll never get what I'm going. I think people hearing that makes them think, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I tell you, I've sat with tears welling up in my eyes thinking about not just my own situation, about what other people must be going through out there. Not like the people who are not privileged like we are to and lucky to have what we have. It's devastating what's going on. And so yeah, we've all had our own personal struggle through this. No matter no matter what it is, it's a thing that it's affected us all. It's affected the globe, and I'm hoping that what's going to happen once we're at the other end of it, we'll have come out with a different idea of what community should
Mm.
be and humanness and all of that kind of and like just a little bit of a global reset as to what we see as more important in life.
I completely agree with you. And having taken this time, to be alone, to just, contemplate and think, what do you think can change in the South African entertainment industry? Like, what do you think needs to change? What do you think, like, if it was just one thing, what would it be for you?
Ooh, it can't be just one thing.
Yeah,
um,
you can list it.
I think you know what it is. I think the one thing that could really change in South Africa specifically, well, but that's what we're talking about, is how the how the country and how people see our industry. I
Mm.
think for a long time, and it's starting a little bit now. It started with trackers and with Still Breathing that just finished on Mnet. Um, but I think there's been a sense out there that because it's South African, it's not good enough or it's not as important enough. And I don't think people realize how important entertainment and how important the entertainment industry is in their lives, and how important the entertainment industry has been to this country. A lot of people have forgotten how theatre and a lot of things had a big played a part in changing the regime and getting us back to being a democracy. And I really feel that in a sense that has been forgotten, and we need to bring it back and realize how important entertainment is in our lives, even if it's just a question of being entertained and you know forgetting about the real world for a while, even if it's just on that level. But also the fact that South Africa has some amazing and incredible Africa has some incredible enriching stories to tell, and I think we need to start taking that more seriously and giving it more weight.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But I think all people need to do really is sit in a room, switch off the music, switch off the TV, take away the books, take away artistic supplies, and then see how important entertainment is.
Exactly, absolutely, yeah.
I think it's when people are really alone, and especially in this time, that people are really starting to grasp that if I didn't have these shows, if I didn't have this music, I wouldn't be able to, live without these things. And like Iman
Yeah,
is saying, imagining like lockdown without Netflix is just amazing.
yeah, yeah.
I agree, Ivan.
Yes, Ivan, yes.
Yeah, no, it's so true because I think for a very long time, especially as South Africans, what I found is when I left South Africa and I went to the US for a bit and I came back, one thing the US has that South Africa is struggling with is probably Americans are so proud of being American. They think everything American has been kissed by God. Like it's
Absolutely.
in some ways because they're so proud and they think all the entertainment is great. They think all their music, they think all their cheesy like car adverts are amazing. And you come back home and you watch our entertainment and you're like, wait, like we're good. We're really good,
We're
right?
brilliant.
And we don't appreciate it because I think
Yeah,
we've conditioned ourselves to believe that if it's American, it's great. If it's South African,
exactly. I
you
mean,
know,
little known fact, let me tell you, little known fact. South Africa produced its first full-length feature film before America did in the 1900s, or yeah, before America did. We had a movie theater here at around the same time as America. So we think that the industry here is new and whatever. It goes way back to the early 1900s. Um, and yeah, I experienced the same thing that you're saying when I was living in America. It's like there's no room for modesty or anything like that. In America, you've got to sell yourself, and they sell that American dream. I mean, a friend of mine tells an anecdote of when he was at a Hollywood party and all the people were there, and how he, born in Zimbabwe, coming from South Africa and moving to the United States, had that, and he lived in England for a while. So he had that
yeah.
modesty, that South African modesty. And somebody at the party was like, so, like, what have you done? And he'd done a whole string of things on BBC and everything. And it was like, oh, this and that. And he found they went, oh, okay, turned away, went to this other guy who's in the room, who's an American, and the guy was like selling himself from the rafters and like going, I'm this, I'm that. And he'd just only done a commercial. Just finished shooting a commercial, and he was really like going, I'm the best thing on this. So that's kind of the attitude. And like if you look at America as well, a lot of people speak about being African American, Italian American, Greek American, whatever it is. And over here, I've always said this. I've said this for a long time. We'll kind of sometimes, and I think it's changed. I think it's changed quite a bit over the time now. But we used to tend to say, I'm Greek, I'm Italian, I'm this, as opposed to I'm South African.
Yeah. Yeah. As if having all these other subcultures makes you more special, or it makes you stand out, which is it's actually quite interesting. But coming back to trackers, because you mentioned it briefly. I mean, trackers broke records in South Africa, right? It was, if I'm not mistaken, one of Mnet's most watched shows, if not the most watched show. And you were a part of it.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was amazing.
Your accent was on point.
Thank you. It's got to do with my parents who were born in Egypt. So, yeah. It broke all records. It was the most watched show on Mnet. It beat Game of Thrones. It beat all of those shows, and it got the highest ratings that any movie ever got in the 8 o'clock slot at that on a Sunday. So incredible. Like, we just, you get stuck into the process and you film it and you do what you got to do, and then like all of us, when we saw the final result on screen, we couldn't be more prouder. And an amazing cast and director and writers. It was just, I mean, the story is just incredible. It's kind of Dion Mayer is just a sublime writer, if you know what I mean. He's global, and his characters are just so amazing and so complex that you get involved in the story a lot, you know, because of the characters that he's created. So yeah, it was amazing, amazing. And now it's opening on Cinemax on the 5th of June in America. So it starts, yeah. So
Amazing. Oh my
yeah.
God. And I just want to speak on your character. I mean, how was it playing that character? I mean, because I don't believe I've seen you in a character or a role like that, you know, where you play like the Don. Like, you're not just a lovable dude. Like, I was like, what is going on? I really don't like him.
I know. It's crazy.
Was
I mean, that character is crazy. It's wow, it was amazing to play that because I mean, essentially this guy is the Don. He's like basically a commander in Al Qaeda. So, you know, the equivalent of someone who answers directly to the head of Al Qaeda. I think at that time it was, what's his name? What was his name now? I've forgotten his name. Bin Laden. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So he'd like sort of sit down with Bin Laden type thing. So this guy's and it was about like sort of getting into the psyche of the character, and as it was described by the director and Dion, and these characters, they have a belief system, and they believe that what they are doing is right, and they believe they're fighting for their cause. So in their minds, they're not really doing anything wrong. So it's about getting into that kind of psyche of someone who's an outright mass murderer, really. But he has a belief system, and he believes that has to be done. So yeah, it was quite interesting getting into that mindset. Where I'm sure most of people saw the outcome at the end of what we were actually aiming to achieve, was to create a biological weapon out of a 9-year-old girl. That's insane.
Insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But in his mind, it's like that's what has to be done.
Oof. And I think it does capture the radical movements, right? It captures the mindset of radical movements, because as minded, and I put that in air quotes, people, we almost can't stomach or relate or see the other perspective. And I think you do have shows like this, you do watch movies, and again, why entertainment is so important is it allows you to step into a different character, and even if you don't like them, to see what they see, you know. Because I think as soon as we like, but all of us should be loving kindness and all these things, ideally we should, right? But if you have someone with a very extreme mindset, it's not, you're not going to shift them by preaching peace and love, right? So I think that's what Trackers like was just so good at doing, and I love. When's it coming back? You know, is it coming back?
I don't know. I'm not sure where it is at the moment. I don't know if it's on Showmax or if it's on catch up. But I don't know what's happening afterwards. I don't know if there's going to be. We don't know. A lot of people are screaming for a sequel, but the story doesn't have a sequel. Dion didn't write a sequel to the story. But he does, his main characters like Lemmer and all of those guys do feature in more than one of his stories. So maybe something like that will come back on the back of one of the characters. Who knows? But Dion, if you're listening, it has to be done. Mnet, if you're listening, it has to be done.
Sign a petition.
Rickford, then we got someone here from America joining us.
Hi,
Rickford 911. Oh, what a legend. He's a legend.
Were saying the US is a very proud place. That's what we said.
Yes. And you got to follow him. He's got a thing on the social platform called Station Head. It's an amazing platform where you have your own radio station, and if you've got an iPhone, you can create your own radio station, and then you can go from your phone. You can go and speak on Rick's show from your phone and have a conversation with him on his radio station. So it's pretty
That's
cool.
amazing. Hey, Rick.
I don't even know why he's like, he must be like, it must be like, what time is it on the East Coast in America now?
He accidentally tuned in. He was like,
yeah.
it's too early for this much energy. But I want to speak with you. Started by saying you were going to be a conservationist. That was it in your head. You were like, I want to do conservation. I want to work with animals. And then now you did a short movie, an award-winning short movie, Side of a Horn. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about that? What was the process behind it? Like, how did you shoot it? All of it.
So basically, hold on. I'm doing some funny things on the screen here. Let me do. What have I done here?
You send the pasta plate.
Okay. I sent a pasta plate as opposed to a fist to Rickford. A fist pump. Brilliant, you know. I think Rickford might have some Italian descendancy. So yes, I've always been a conservationist at heart and a conversationist. So I was approached by someone in the States who had come here, a guy called Toby Wasco, who had been here in South Africa and had witnessed sort of some stories of the poaching crisis in South Africa. And so he wrote a script based on some real stories. And it's basically the story we don't really hear all the time. It's the story, that's why it's called Sides of a Horn, because it's told from 3 different perspectives around the rhino poaching industry. Mainly 2 of the human elements, which is the one of the poacher and the one of the anti-poacher. And they are brothers-in-law. And the one, out of desperation to save his wife, who's really ill, decides he's gonna go into poaching. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm not going to tell you what the outcome is, because it's it ends on quite a cliffhanger, which is quite amazing. And yeah, we got Richard Branson to give it a voice. He came on as an executive producer, just, you know, and helped us give it a voice on his platforms. And we entered a few film festivals, and it won 11 awards, and it qualified for the Oscars. So we entered it into the Oscars. It didn't get a nomination, unfortunately, but I think we did what we needed to do, was tell that story and spread that story, and hopefully we can do something bigger with it now, and maybe create a series or a feature film out of the story, because it's important. I mean, our rhinos are being slaughtered even now, even while we're all in lockdown. I know of one of the game reserves close by. I don't want to mention the name because we don't want to mention names so people don't know where to go. Lost 2 rhinos during the lockdown, which is not as bad as it has been, but still, you know, that trade is still going, even though we supposedly have a virus floating around the world that comes from wild animals. So it's an important thing to me, and I think we did our little. So yeah, I mean, it's, if you want to catch it, if anybody out there hasn't seen it, it's at www.rhinomovie.com. And that ideally is, you know, there's another African story that, you know, we don't hear. We don't hear about those people who are living in townships close by to game reserves, who are desperate and need to feed their families. And, you know, how do we curb that? How do we stop people from doing that and destroying our wildlife heritage, as opposed to doing something else to support their families? And whose responsibility is it to help help those people, you know? And I think we all have a responsibility towards our wildlife heritage. It's what makes us African, you know, part of it. You know, there's, you talk to the Americans, like when I lived there as well, and you talk to them about the Big Five, and you tell them what it is, and they're amazed by it. They're so mystified by this continent that has these amazing wildlife, this amazing wildlife heritage. It's like no heritage, like wildlife heritage in the world, except for maybe the Amazon, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for the work you do around that. And also, once again, opening up our minds to see things from a different perspective, right? Because perspective is everything. When you want
Absolutely.
to help in a cause, when you want to, initiate change, you whether you like the different perspective or you don't, it's very important to understand it. Because when you understand how
Absolutely.
people do what they do, you're more likely to change it than when you want to judge, right? Very little gets changed from judgment. So you're like,
Absolutely.
you can judge inside just a little bit, but you've got to try and figure out the best way to go. And our final question, if you had to go back to 18-year-old Emmanuel, and you had to give him one piece of advice, either about love, life, career, what would you say?
Well, for me personally, the big journey for me has been about standing in your power, standing in my power, standing and taking your place in the world. Because I think a lot of people, because of many things that have happened to them and because of a lot of things in their lives, don't actually see and experience their full potential in the world. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could just, your full potential could just be someone who is a good husband and father and creates this amazing little nucleus of a family in the world that does something. Or you could be someone who, you know, is an activist and saves the planet. Doesn't matter what it is, but I personally believe I would have achieved a lot more if I'd stood more in my power. And I think that's what people need to look in the mirror and see and go, listen, I matter, no matter what it is, in which part of the life and stratosphere of the universe. Zubair has it. Stratosphere of the universe is like, I think that's for me my biggest, what I would have said to my 18-year-old self. I would have like, dude, you need to stand in your power. You need to take what is yours and live your life with confidence and knowing that you count.
Wow. I think all of us could use that. I mean, it sounds so easy, right? Stand in your powers, own your authority. But I think what you're saying is so true. So many of us spend so much time doubting our abilities, asking ourselves,
Mm,
good enough? What makes me so special? What makes me so unique in this field or in this thing? And the truth is, it's just about saying, well, I may not be Beyonce or I may not be this person, but I
yeah,
me. And me
absolutely.
and I can achieve, according to my own limitations of my own mind. So I think that's
Exactly.
beautiful. So
Yeah, I
if
mean,
yeah, gone.
sorry to interrupt. I mean, like the thing that I have, a story that I have in my that I only realized recently after spending time with a therapist, is I have a story when I was a kid. I was on a field trip with my school, and the the game ranger at the time took out a stuffed bird, and he showed it to us, and he said, "So, who knows what bird this is?" And I knew what it was, but I didn't put my hand up because I was too shy to take my place in the world. And someone next to me, a friend of mine, put his hand up and answered, and he got it wrong. And the guy said, "No, it's a young martial eagle." And I was like, I knew that. I knew it was a young martial eagle, but I didn't put my hand up to say that. So what I've created is this totem of this martial eagle. It's one of the biggest. It is the largest eagle in Southern Africa. It's like a huge bird,
Yeah.
and it's like a proud bird, and it's an amazing bird. And so I started going, and recently I started going, oh, so I was like the martial eagle that was afraid to fly.
Ah, wow.
This majestic animal that literally can take down a small buck and take it up into the air. I was that martial eagle long ago that was afraid to fly. And I'm actually going to write a little children's story about that. But yeah, so
That's
so so
yeah.
that's essentially it. It's like we all, like you were saying, we got to just find that love, self-love.
Sure. And I can't think of a better note to end that on. So much wisdom. Thank you, Emmanuel, for coming on here and just sharing your wisdom, your light, your love with the world. And thank you for just who you are. I think that's one thing, I'm most grateful for. Just the person you are in the world is just so much. And, you just shine a light wherever you go. And I'm so privileged to have been a part of that light and to, like get warm in that light.
Well, it's only because you're the same. So thank
Aw.
you for having me. No, absolutely.
Thank
You shine a light on the world as well. So thank you so much for having me on your platform. And it's been awesome. Always awesome speaking to you.
Yeah, and we're waiting for your children's book. Okay.
Yes.
Not going to
Yes.
let you slide on that one.
You know what happened? I had started writing it and then I left the notes on a plane.
On a plane?
I left my book on the seat while I was packing my bag and I forgot. So I have to start all over again.
An Uber at least. No, not a whole plane.
Yes, on a plane to Durban.
You know what? Someone out there is inspired by it. But now what you can do is you take all the inspiration that you left on the plane and now you put it onto paper and then that's it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They need it. They need it. Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Candice.
Have a great day on set. And I'll speak
Thank you.
to you soon. Oh, and thank you to
And thank you,
everyone.
everybody, for watching.
So that was such an incredible interview. I loved every second of speaking to Emmanuel. And I think where he ended, when he said, trust in your own power, stay in your own power. I mean, that is beautiful. And I really hope that becomes your takeaway for this episode. If you've liked this episode, please like, share, subscribe, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. I'll see you guys soon and thank you for watching.